Well, hello everyone. Hope you all are having a wonderful day and a great week. Just wanted to make sure my music was fading out the way it was supposed to. I was like, man, it's still blasting. Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam gaming and all other good stuff. I am Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, your host, and joining me as always is Adam Blue. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, doing good. Yeah, I just finished this thanks to Sig New York, and the video is up.
I saw that drop this morning.
Yeah. If you guys are interested in checking that out. But what's also really cool was in the mail I just got the Robot Spirits. And this is from 0080, and actually the articulation on this is insane.
Really?
And I'll have to deep dive into a video, but just the way it's like buried within the armor. And so it will mold a joint, but the joint is actually not the articulation point. It's very interesting. I'll cover it in a video.
That's awesome. And I love the Cold Districts type GM. I was very disappointed years ago when I thought I was buying the high grade Cold Districts GM and I accidentally bought a GM command, and I was
yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, shopping online, it causes all these issues. But yeah, we have a great show planned for today. I have some new things that I want to share with you guys. Obviously, we've got our friends here in the chat already keeping things lively. We've got some hype. Look at that. Now I can actually call out when people are hyping us up, even if it's no one. And then we've got some hype intensifies from Ultronymous. Hope you're doing well. Greetings, Talos. Good to see you. I'm so, this is such a fantastic new toy for me. I'm going to be excited to actually call out the chat a little bit more and make this a more interactive show. So we have a bunch of big announcements today. I have some hot goss that I'm going to, start dunking on people about. We're going to have fun. I think this is pretty cool. And so in the interest of, obviously addressing all of the announcements, let's go ahead and hop into our slide viewer here.
Okay.
So the first major announcement, you probably heard about this over the weekend from Red Wolf Vion and over on Twitter, but the Gundam Springtide celebration kicks off next week on this very show. We are going to be kicking off the show, and honestly, I'm super excited because we have a superstar guest. Vampy Bitme is going to be joining us to cover a deep dive into Gundam history, mostly pop culture things, but there's going to be some interesting stuff for us to talk about. I'm really excited to kind of contribute to this overall event and really just get it started. I mean, I don't know. I've been sharing a lot of the behind the scenes work with Adam, and I don't know. Do you think it's gonna be okay? Do you think we're gonna?
Yeah, I really do think there needs to be some Western cultural Gundam thingy that occurs at a non-corporate level, and there's not a lot of that. I think this is kind of a good way to kind of get that out there. Here's people that like Gundam and they're coming up with something to talk about it, and use other people with reach in the fandom to kind of help, bring more attention to Gundam, really.
Yeah, so Ultronymous here says, how does it feel to be the proverbial opening ceremony? It's terrifying. I'm probably going to be a little bit like Shane Gillis on SNL. I'm going to probably fumble my words and but no, I think it's going to be awesome because we don't have as much pressure on us from the sort of MC standpoint, because really the event starts off with just special edition episodes of our shows,
Yeah,
so nothing too different. It's just going to be a little bit more directed, a little bit less freeform, a little bit more of a structured show, but
sure.
there's going to be some cool visuals and some cool things that we're going to be sharing with you. And, you might just want to tune in case we decide to do a giveaway or something.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
after that, for that Friday and Saturday, there's going to be some Gundam Battle Operation 2, I guess, tournaments. I'm not sure exactly what the format is going to be, but we have some of
Yeah.
our own joining us. Adam, you're going to be participating in the Saturday event, so
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to watching you murk
Oh,
some
yeah.
people.
Yeah, no, it's GBO2 is the game, I wish it was more popular, but hey, it's popular enough, have it as part of this sort of celebration.
I think
Yeah.
so too. I think that and having it during Mecha March, I think just as fitting.
Yeah,
Even though technically, Gundam aired in April, we can call it March for the sake of having it tied into this whole mecha theme that we have going on here. Speaking of Mecha March, we actually have another announcement. Today's show is in fact brought to you by Zeeg New York. Zeonic Shadow has been a longtime supporter of both of our channels, and he's always sending us cool stuff, such as Freedom
oh, yeah.
Gundams to to
My
put
video
together.
sponsored by Zig New York, that's right, yeah.
So Zeeg New York's actually got a giveaway going on right now, starting this month. So get in over on Instagram. I've got the rules over here. It is actually being sponsored by one of their boys, Trons, who provided. Can I say what the kit is? Zionic, hit me in the chat if you if you think I can say what the kit is. I think if you guys follow Zeeg New York on Instagram, they actually did announce which kit they're giving
Yeah,
away, but I want you guys to go look because I want you guys to go and share that post and get, the chance to win that kit.
yeah,
So Zeeg New York's going to be doing giveaways like this going forward. And so I'm always uh, honored and privileged to shout them out because, we look out for each other.
definitely.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's just part of like all of the cool things going on for March. So, between Springtide, we've got a Zeeg New York giveaway. What else? Well, obviously Patreon perks went out this past
Oh,
weekend from
yeah, that's
from
right.
yours truly, so I've got some cool stuff and I'm going to show off some of that stuff today, hopefully a little bit later. But we got another huge announcement about Mecha March is in fact this one is direct from Bandai. Is we've got Seed Freedom coming to the US. And that inspired today's question of the day. You guys see the poll in there. How far would you drive to go to the Seed Freedom premiere? Now, Adam, is it just me? I have to admit, as excited as I am that we are getting the Seed Freedom Western release, are you tired of the New York LA launches? Like
Yeah, it is
the limited releases?
it's kind of an archaic approach because before the internet connecting everyone, those were just the hubs, the hotspots that you'd go to in the world whenever you're premiering anything. And e- especially this that's a foreign animation that then they're premiering. It's they're they're just picking these hotspots. I guess that gives it more of a worldwide appeal, like, oh, check this out. But for people that are in English speaking areas, this doesn't really matter too much. Like, I think what happens then is when you get people in Los Angeles and New York, then it becomes an event and there's coverage. And then obviously there's influencers going to these things. So that's cool. That's cool on its own. And
Yeah.
with the poll, I was looking at it and I was like, I was trying to map out like how long would I be willing to sit in the car? And I could do 25 miles to go see it. But I was even looking at flying out and I was like, okay,
Oh yeah.
the cost to fly out, I wouldn't want to go just to see a movie. It would have to be like, how can I turn this into something? And it was just a little too late to really plan that, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I might have done that where it's like, hey, let me plan a trip around this.
And just doing like I mean, making it something special, and that's what they are doing. They are bringing in
Yeah.
some of the voice actors, they're bringing in some of the producers that are involved with the project. Ultronimus in chat actually brings up a very good point. It'd be super cool if they did it as a Fathom style event, and that's one thing.
Yeah.
And maybe I phrased the question wrong because, mileage versus minutes spent traveling, we actually had a Fathom Events, the Char's Counterattack re-release in
Oh,
theaters.
that's right. Yeah,
For me, that was 45 minutes away, and I did go to that.
that's cool.
Um, but, it's the cost of a standard movie ticket, and, it's just driving. It's not like it's,
And that's not bad. I mean, going to a movie is pretty cool and fun to do in the first place if you like that. So it's really it. But this reminds me of like when Cuckoo's Owen's Island came out. Like when the English release, they did where it was like one day in the theater with the subtitle, one day with the dub, but it was more locations.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think there was even one near me in Dallas, but it was like I think the same night. Is it like one of my son's baseball games or something? So that's why I didn't go. Um, but then later in that year, or I forget how long it was, then it was on Crunchyroll randomly. So
right.
because they're already doing the theater thing here, it makes me think really the next step is going to be like, hey guys, it's on Crunchyroll.
Yeah. And so I guess, I think obviously it is going to be eventually available for all of us to watch, but I
Yeah.
guess my criticism comes from the fact that, like, events like this, like you said, they're kind of dated in terms of their appeal
Location based.
and
Yeah.
yeah, the location base. And maybe it's like you go for a very populated city because you think that that's where you're going to get the most people, but you know, what's the difference between core population versus population of Gundam fans,
Y-
right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then when you look at some of these ticket prices and it's like, to go to the New York event, the standard ticket's $40. Now, granted, they throw in some badges, some cool, swag like tote bags and paper V-fins that you can wear on your head. So there's some cool perks and swag that you get along with it. But I mean, a standard movie would be what, $25? So you're telling me that
If
15 to
that,
$20 is a
there's
tote bag and a paper
there's a
paper
theater
head.
around me where it's like 5 to 8.
Yeah, there you
And
go. See,
yeah, it's one of those things because it's an event, it's a special event, but it's almost like the I guess the other thing here is the optics. Like we
right.
see this, and then you have a larger, bigger population of people that are like, okay, what about me? We
Yes.
have our wallets open, but we have no way to spend the money
Exactly.
in our wallets. So I think that's
And to
stuff
put
like
it in
this.
perspective, like,
Yeah,
you think about like New York Comic Con or Anime NYC, and to get badges to go to like maybe just Saturdays, what, 45, $50? And
yeah,
that's an all day like event. It's not just a
and
movie.
it's
Like,
planned out in advance for people that want to go. Something like this, it's like, okay, they're really more. That's why to me this seems less of like really a premiere of the movie, more of here's an event to showcase Seed Freedom. So it's in the zeitgeist in the Western English
yeah.
world, and then oh, it's on Crunchyroll. So
So I wish that this was more of a like I would rather have more locations, smaller
yeah,
scale, more affordable for people that want to go see it because the scale of this event is what is adding to the cost of it, right?
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. Again, like I see the intent here, but I think this is kind of an older way of doing things. So
Yeah.
it's more of that prestige, older look. We're premiering in these places. It's like, okay.
Now that said, I probably will check out, how much it will cost to take the train up to New York. I mean, it's always a
Oh,
fun,
cool. Yeah, I already checked flights and hotels, and
is
I
it
was like, if I
eh,
can't make anything out of this, yeah, I'm not gonna spend
yeah.
the money.
Well, then I'd have
So,
to worry about like a sitter and all that stuff.
yeah, yeah. There's so much. That's why, like in advance, I might have planned something out, even as a group.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
because that's the other thing is this is a very late announcement. March 31st. It's March. Well, I mean, when this was announced was like March 4th, right? So it's
yeah,
like,
but still, yeah.
dude, give me like a month or two to get things together. My wife
Oceanic
isn't
Shadow is saying it's on Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday.
It's
Oh
even
well,
stranger.
man. See, I can't even do that. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna be at mass.
that's interesting. That is interesting.
Oh yeah, this is funny. Ultron says Seed Freedom confirmed religious holiday.
Well, isn't that yeah, where the stories that Jesus comes back
Yeah.
in the yeah,
Kira Christ or
yeah,
Jesus Yamato, whatever you.
yeah. Maybe it was intentional. But you know what? Also, want to add, I love it when things are given out. I wonder.
Oh yeah.
It's just like a little paper crown to wear, but that's still.
Well,
Pretty cool.
now the premium tickets, you can get a premium pass for $130 in New York, $140 in LA, but you actually get the high grade Strike Freedom Gundam. You get all the standard items. You get a foil art print and an illustration card. So there's a couple of other perks that come with the premium pass. But again, it's like you said, it's like a prestige thing. I'm trying to identify who the target market of this would be. And let me be clear, is like I'm not trying to bash this at all. Like honestly, I'm grateful that we're getting a Western release of the Seed Freedom movie. It's one of the things that you and I have been talking about for weeks. Like, are we going to get this movie or not?
Yeah.
Um, it just makes me wonder, like, you know, how well do they know their audience if this is the
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I know. And then it makes me think too, like, what if this was Hathaway 2? Would that be a bigger deal? Or is it really that Bandai knows that maybe Seed is a bigger deal in a way to do something like this? And that could be what it is. Because I'm just thinking personally, if this was like a UC based thing, I would probably be more crazy about this and be like, how can I figure out a way to see this? But,
Yeah, I
no.
mean, it would be cool to have the original 0079 movies redubbed in
Oh,
English and
yes.
then released in theaters. Like, that would be
So
incredible.
that's a good point because you know how when we think this deep down inside, but a lot of people are like, yeah, just remake the original shows. But it's like actually probably a good idea just to dub in English the movie trilogy, because it would be so much easier to recommend that to people.
Yeah, yeah, because that is one of the things. A lot of people. I always say it. You and I get really two questions when it comes to Gundam. Is like, A, where do I start, and B,
Yeah.
where can I watch it? And a lot of people, they tend to want to rush through both Gundam and Zeta Gundam because they want to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
And while I can understand that to a certain extent, it's like you do miss out on a lot of the good stuff by not watching the series. And both
Yeah.
of the movie trilogies not being dubbed in English, at least not officially, really does contribute to, like, well, you might as well watch the series because then you can watch it dubbed.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
yeah, I think that we have talked in the past about how the pacing of the movie trilogy is a little bit, it's a little bit tightened up, and even Tomino and Yoshikazu Yasuhiko, they would say that the movie trilogy is the definitive version because they, were able to cut out a lot of fluff and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It because I think the one thing that sticks out to me is the Matilda scene. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like Amara, what? You just met this person. But
So
like but when you watch the show, it's kind of like, oh, okay. But I
yeah,
get it. Like it's pretty neat to have these two options, I guess, to watch it.
yeah, and Johnny Tacoma here says maybe they'll remake the OG show for the 50th anniversary. No, I thought that Tomino's joke, like, well, no, for the 50th anniversary, we're going to drop a life-size colony. That's the way to go.
That's crazy. Oh,
Um,
that's hilarious.
but yeah, so and obviously this is a huge year for Gundam being the 45th anniversary, right? So it's like, that's part of the reason why we're doing the Springtide event in the first place, is like, this is a commemorative thing and hopefully kind of expresses the passion that fans in the West have for this franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I wonder if anything else will come about this. I remember, in the past few years being into more active into Star Wars, they would do these little anniversary events, but a lot of times it would be after the fact, because things have to be produced. Some things are, held
Right.
secret for a reason. You know what I mean? Like they could have something really cool and new to release this year, but they still have to keep it secret. But then it might be part of an anniversary thing, and it's like, "Oh, okay, so they are doing it." So, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, they definitely tend to tease things out, right? Like, I guess what was it, a Star Wars Celebration a couple years back where Ian McDiarmid came out and they were like, "Well, wait, why is he making an
Oh,
appearance
yeah.
here?" And it was like, "Oh, it's because Palpatine's going to be in the next movie."
Yeah.
Which was very cool. I mean, that's a kind of a subtle way, but obviously,
Yeah.
most fans are capable of reading the writing on the wall and,
Yeah.
putting two and two together and saying, "Yeah, I see what you're doing here." But yeah, Star Wars Celebration is a great example of Well, I think that that might be
Yeah.
a little overproduced. I think that I would
Overproduced, but I think I know what you mean. There's kind of like this grounded center point for a worldwide celebration of Star Wars that
yes.
it might be in different countries, and sometimes they skip a year, right? Isn't it where they like skip a year?
I think I think they do.
Or they did, but and it's interesting because I haven't found that with Gundam yet. So I'd sometimes rely on some like Anime Expo. And what's interesting is it's not like I'm into anime. It's just because of Gundam, I've found some animes that I've enjoyed, but it's like I'm not going to go to an anime expo unless I know there's some Gundam presence like this other one I went to that had the Gundam base, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is room for some sort of annual some Gundam celebration. I know in Japan they do it a lot. There's all those YouTube live streams that happen where they show off new products, maybe new
Yeah.
things going on. They talk to cast members, voice actors. And I guess it's just about again getting that into the West. And why is that not here? Is it just because it's not big enough yet? Do some of the American companies maybe not want to? Because they are putting money in the Gundam base going around to different expos, which is cool. So
Yeah.
and the pop up shops, so that happens.
Mhm.
But
The
and then that makes
flagship
me
store
think,
in my town is
yeah.
is another um
In so then it makes me think how much is the popularity of Gundam really about the model building? So it is hard for them to justify non-model kit based ways of doing things, like
yeah.
because with Star Wars, it's not like Star Wars is popular because it has like this model kit like group.
Yeah.
The merchandise was fun, but people like the stories, and I always feel like when it comes to Gundam, sometimes there's too much from the top of a focus on here's the Gunpla that you could buy, but like, what about the story and all those little interesting facets? And I think that's where maybe Star Wars does better when it's celebrating its IP, is it's looking at everything, not just the toys,
That's a really good point. I think that and we're probably going to talk about that uh, probably more in depth next week on account of the fact that a lot of you know, the merchandise and the push around reviving Gundam A came from fans and
Yeah.
B, it was only in small part Gunpla, but I think that the Gunpla market has definitely expanded to be more encompassing of the Gundam fan base in general. So it's like if you were to look at like Gundam fans on a pie chart, maybe originally it was more evenly split, but I think that now you're kind of looking more at like a 75 25 split between Gunpla fans and then like Gundam fans.
It does seem like that. And but I get it. So they have to capitalize on that. But I think there is opportunity to make it more about than just the Gunpla.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? Maybe that's where we're probably not giving enough credit because the live action movie and Requiem for
Yeah.
Vengeance are probably going to be the sort of opening salvo to put a foothold in the West because I think that you and I have
Yeah.
talked about before how like animation in the West is not really viewed with the type of esteem and regard that it is in Japan. And so when people talk about like, oh, well, Char's counterattack is this cinematic masterpiece, and they're like, oh yeah, it's who's in it? And you're like, well,
Yeah.
it's drawn, so
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, if you look at what sort of animation here in the US is sort of popular, like mature animation, it's stuff that's really dark, but it's more character driven.
hmm
And so I think the thing with Gundam, and while it is too, but I think on the surface, people are seeing robots. Oh, it's animated robots. I'd rather see that in live action.
right.
I'm thinking of like that. What's that superhero show on Amazon? Invincibles. That's
Oh
a
yeah,
really well done animated show, but it's really about the characters,
yeah,
even though Gundam it's just like on the surface, it's like superhero characters that really gets an American audience, I guess. And yeah, because there's a lot of mature anime, but it portrays things in these very like almost kid-like ways because it's like giant robots or giant aliens.
yeah. And it's one of those things that like you have to get away from the sort of ironic view that a lot of people take on it. There's so many cartoons out there, Western cartoons, I should say. There's so many Western cartoons that are almost poking fun at themselves in and as the genre, and it's like
Mm,
we're not taking this seriously. This is we're
yeah.
in on the joke with you. Like we both think that this is campy. But, yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to compare the viewership numbers of, like, Invincible to, say, The Boys, which both of them are mature,
Yeah. And
superhero
I would
stories
think
on Amazon.
I would think the boys would be higher
Oh, I
anyway.
do too.
Um,
Um,
it's
Let me
interesting.
take a look at the chat here. I see Robert says, Midnight Hatter and Gundam Explained. I'm here just wondering if either of you guys read my letter to Sony Crunchyroll about how they're discriminating against certain populations. I can't say that I have, but I can definitely take a look at that. It's not something I'm familiar with, but
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it, but I do know there's a lot of this, and it happens, and Sony tends to do this. It's kind of this like stranglehold on a market,
yeah,
to where they will sort of do things in a way to make something as broadly appealing as possible. So then there's that perception of discrimination because,
yeah,
and it's whatever. I think again, I brought this up. A corporation, just like anyone, can make mistakes, and sometimes these companies don't realize they're making mistakes, even if a population can express, "Hey, this is probably not a good idea." And then we can see right now with industries even outside of gaming, and entertainment, where companies are folding, laying off people. So it's one of these things where, unfortunately, I think we're going to see companies make these little mistakes for a bit.
yeah. I agree, and especially now, I'm seeing that in particular with like regard to AI and things like that. Is like companies are going all in on AI for the wrong reasons, and they're
Oh yeah.
not using AI as a tool. They're using it as a way of replacing people. And one of the things that I've noticed is I get a lot of AI written letters, in my job, and there's
Uh,
nothing more disingenuous and disrespectful to me than someone who doesn't take the time to reply to me and they just plug in a response to like Chat GPT and then email it to me. Is like, wow, you really think that lowly? So, I don't know,
it's crazy. And you know what, that example you brought up, like we see this a lot, and it wasn't until the company I work for happened to have this little thing set up to have a coaching session with an AI specialist,
oh, really?
and it really one, it made me feel happy for the company I work for because they're taking AI seriously. They know they're not just
Yes.
pushing things to kind of, oh, well, company wants this, let's just do this. They really are looking at like at find out their pain points unrelated to AI. And eventually you can utilize AI to fix that pain point. It's not about coming up with something new that will just make you money all of a sudden. It's about
Exactly.
how can you fix current pain points. And I really appreciated that. It's helped me kind of understand how I'm talking about AI as well, and when I see it being used.
Yeah.
So,
And if we approach everything with a lens of sensitivity and, like you said, with the intent of solving problems as opposed to, cutting costs, I think that that's where we're really gonna find the beauty in what we're doing.
yeah, definitely.
Let's see. There was something else I saw in chat that was relevant, but I lost it. So, with that said, I do want to talk about some of the other exciting things going on in
Yeah.
March. If you guys are as terminally online as I am, then you know that, of course, this month is the Gundam March Madness tournament hosted by our very good friend and official Innovade, Darth Vader. I hope you guys were involved with this over the past couple years because, like, obviously it's been a drama-filled event taking, 32 Gundam characters and pitting them up against each other on Twitter for
That's always fun.
it's it sparks the most amazing debates between people, and I love the passion here. This is
Because
part of
it,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, because it's really all about personal opinion, but it's let's see how passionate and articulated people can be with their opinions, because it shows how much they like or dislike something. That's what
I
makes
know.
it fun. You know.
Exactly. And so this is the type of stuff that, when I'm talking about like, man, we need more fan engagement, we need more fan, things that are created for fans by fans. Like this is the type of thing that I'm all about. And
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be Gundam fans if there wasn't already drama involved. I think that, you know, people
Yeah.
were getting mad at the number of turn A characters that were winning, which I thought was just hilarious. Um, have you been voting daily in these?
No, I don't, because I see myself as the UC dude, and I don't feel like I know the other characters enough to give them a fair shake. I would just look at it and be like, does that look like a waifu? Okay. I don't know.
You know what? I think that that's probably how, if you look at the comments section, it's mostly articulated as like, well, she's hot and he's.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But yeah, I'm hoping for a Camille sweep this year. Obviously, I think Camille was robbed last year because uh, I and this is something that is kind of new to me, is the popularity of G Gundam. Like,
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear what you're gonna say because getting into Gundam, that actually came up first for me, especially with a lot of the members that have been with me for a long time.
yeah,
They even had me do it was like Sayla Goose and Ian had me do a show about G Gundam to talk about it with me.
yeah.
So, like, for me, it's always like, wow, that is a popular Gundam, even though that's not even the type of Gundam I would be into.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I never liked it. And hey, shoot me, whatever. I never liked G Gundam, but I'm pretty sure, and maybe we'll talk about this next week, is I'm pretty sure that G Gundam was the first AU Gundam.
Yeah, yeah, it
So
was.
making it like the first, you know, jumping on point that, and we've talked about this before, where it's like one of the advantages that Gundam has over Star Wars is that because of all of the different AUs, there's a lot of different jumping on points. So for fans in the West, G Gundam might have been like their first Gundam. I know that for a lot of us it was Wing as well, but
Yeah.
they came out virtually at the same time. They came out the same year. At least they came
Yeah.
out the same year in Japan.
Yeah, because yeah, Rogue Newtop is saying he saw G right after Wing. So think about that. Having no UC knowledge and watching G Gundam, Wing, like I can understand how that perception. You know what? It's so funny you're saying this. What was I watching? There was a podcast recently. It was a Nintendo team people. They were just talking about their Nintendo influencers that are pretty big, talking about the recent Nintendo Direct. And as soon as they showed Gundam Breaker 4, they were like, "Oh, that's that Gundam thing. You gonna play that?" It's like, I don't know. I don't know where to jump in. There's just too much. And they were both agreeing that there's too much of Gundam. They don't know where to start, so they just don't start. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem right there. And I think having people introduced to stuff like G Gundam and Wing first, even though that's not a problem, I
Mm,
think if you're trying to retain a lifetime fan, it's like either they're going to be able to dive into the other shows and kind of get what the universe is, or they're going to be overwhelmed. You know?
yeah. And there's the tonal whiplash associated with it because, you're going to get people that it's like, if you love G Gundam, the likelihood of you sitting down and watching UC it and like saying, "Hey, this is fantastic." I would say it's pretty low unless you just generally like giant robots, because
Yeah,
that's kind of
and
the
even
thing.
then, the robots are different.
Yeah, the
In my
robot
opinion.
designs.
One is more of an action martial arts movie, like superhero, Super Sentai,
Yeah.
and then the other one is like, World War II, what I'm seeing people going out into war, and they have heavy machinery that's being used, yeah.
Right, wear the skin suits. Like, I want to see
Yeah,
I want to see Amuro's butt in black latex.
yeah, that's but so that's what's neat
Please don't
because,
clip that.
it well, isn't it where what's happening in Pacific Rim, was probably from G Gundam,
Yeah,
right?
definitely more inspired by G Gundam or Evangelion than.
Yeah, just because of the people standing in, and moving around, with the suit. But I wonder if that was in Japanese like Sentai stuff anyway, early on. I don't know.
Yeah, to a certain extent. They definitely didn't have the sort of standing up inside the Zords
Okay.
and things like
They
that.
were
So
just sitting.
that's
Yeah.
different. Man, maybe even Robot Jocks is what inspired that with.
Yeah, yeah, Robot Jocks. That was what I was thinking of. Yeah.
But yeah, so if you guys are on Twitter, definitely go actually changed his username. It's at Darth Veda 00, because it used to be, JW North Star. Now it's actually
Oh.
just Darth Veda. So go on there, vote for Camille in every round so that we can.
Is it a daily round thing?
Yeah, so daily, there's like four matchups every day. So
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm
um
gonna have to sit back and watch this. That could be pretty fun.
Yeah, we're already into the second round, and like I said, there've been some upsets. Definitely a lot of people upset, but see what I did?
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, this is kind of part of the fan engagement stuff that just I love so much. Is there's so many passionate Gundam fans here in the West, and when you talk about the different types of engagement that is being solicited by fans versus the types of engagement that are being promoted, sort of officially, um, I'm like, man, give Darth Vader a
Yeah.
a
No,
premiere.
that's true. That's true. I think, in the West here, influencers could be mined probably a little better, than they have been, but,
Yeah. Well, and that's on, I think, influencers and content creators to step up their game too. I think that there's probably
yeah.
we all need to do better at
Well
producing better content. So,
well, it's funny because even the fact that I started the Gundam Explained channel told me there wasn't a lot out there anyway, so I think we are kinda working from a deficit to try to, and I think I always come from a place where I'm trying t I feel like Gundam should be as visible as Star Wars in the West, like, it should
yeah.
be. I feel like they are they are almost the same things, but I feel like there's more of an honesty behind Gundam mobiles because they're willing to show things that are tragic,
Mhm.
and speak on them.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're almost more like character studies than stories
yeah.
because, there's an
Oh,
exploration
yeah,
of
that's a good point.
human nature going on that doesn't really happen in Star Wars so much, since Star Wars is typically more of like a hero's journey type, classic fairy tale.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I appreciate what you do, and I think that we've said this before, that the approach from Gundam fans is something that's sort of fractured. You have
mhm.
like there's a pocket of people on Reddit that translate things, and then there's Zionic Scans, and he translates some stuff, and then you've got Mark Simmons has his blog, and then you've got a bunch of YouTube people that play video games, and then so
You got
there's
the
no
Gunpla core,
there's no
Gunpla.
cohesive
Yeah,
fan group, and I think that, well, if there's anything that we can learn from the Gundam March Madness tournament, it's that Gundam fans hate each other.
yeah. That's why I'm
It's
really hoping this, and you brought it up. You reminded me that this movie or the Requiem for Vengeance really kinda helps, uh, that be the glue.
yeah, I
Uh,
want that to be the sort of galvanizing, cohesive thing that we can all get behind and say like, yes,
yep.
more of this, please. Speaking of more of this, is more things that I am working on, sort of behind the scenes. Let me pop up the screen here. So this is a 3D file. Well, it's actually technically a collection of 3D files that I found on Thingiverse. It's the Gundam Mark II cockpit, just like the chair and the monitor and everything. Obviously it doesn't have the panoramic cockpit, but I mean, how would you 3D
Yeah,
print that unless it was like clear? But we're gonna
yeah.
get to that because this month one of my Patreon rewards for the Principality of Polygons tier was actually a 3D model of Camille that I actually sculpted myself, and I think I've posted a couple things in the supporters section on Discord of like how this Camille looks. Actually, you know what? Here,
That's
I'll
amazing.
let me just go ahead and give you a preview of what this looks like. So this is the 3D rendering that I did of this Camille figure that I've been working on. Now, right now, it's only available as, in a seated position, and, you can't kind of plop him in this if you were to 3D print it and then 3D print the chair. But I do want to make this more of an articulated figure, and that's something that I'm working on doing as well. But I'm curious, maybe Adam, if you have some feedback or if the chat has some feedback, what I'd like to do is make this a sort of diorama piece. If I were to 3D print this Camille figure, get him to sit in this chair, I already have where is it? I've got my little tiny screen that I've shown on
Yeah, I was
camera
about to say,
before.
you can make that little, display.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to
Wow.
install the display in the monitor section of the cockpit frame there. But how do I create the effect of the panoramic cockpit? Like, do I
Oh,
do like a half dome behind it?
I know. Yeah, it's of all those little mini LCDs, and then you have a camera. Like, so it's behind it where you can see, like, behind Camille, but there's a
But
camera behind
it
that looking
projects.
behind. So, yes, that's what you need to do.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, because the only thing I could think of is like, what if I just did like, if I took like a fishbowl and cut it in half and just kind of like put that up as like a glass panel, and then it's
Oh, yeah.
technically it's see through. You're seeing what's behind it, but I think it would be a lot cooler if I did the screens actually.
A lot harder, but a lot cooler. Yeah, I think both those options could be explored,
Yeah.
especially if you could do something else with that globe, like make it where, and I don't know how this works. Is there some like sort of laser projection that you can have with like little LEDs to like flash on it or
Well,
something?
it's funny you mention that because King Dylan says, yeah,
Oh,
maybe use a
a projector.
projector.
Yeah.
Also says, get me an Emma variant.
Yeah. Plus one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, and this is one of part of one of the many projects I'm constantly working on. Is I'm like, for me, the GMG figures that are
Oh, yeah.
coming out, they're just coming out too slow because I'm like, I need some Zeta figures in my life. They don't have a Camille, they don't have an Emma yet. I'm like, if they're not gonna make it, I'm gonna make it. And
Yeah, they came out with the Sayla, Amuro, Rombarol in, Char, which was really nice, but it's like, okay, I want Amuro with this pilot uniform because if we have that, we could do a bunch. And they're coming out with the figures where they're like not fully painted and they come with decals. So it's like I think they see there's customizing, but you're right. I want them to start getting to Zeta stuff. I
yeah,
would love to have the cast from Zeta in that form. That'd be great.
yeah, I mean the articulation on those figures is fantastic, and I
Yeah.
am trying to mimic that kind of as closely as I can. I've already got some like ball joints designed. One of the things that I'm working on is
Oh,
that
cool.
double hinge design of the elbows and knees. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the thing. Like the articulation is so good on those figures that like I could understand if you when you were if you're putting this together, you're like, well, I have to do something a little simpler. And there are some like Mattel's Jurassic Park figures that are that size.
hmm,
They do have a lot of articulation, but it's limited, but it's still there. Like they try to make it where it's not as exposed, like you don't see the pins and stuff like
right.
that. And so it's limited, but still there.
Which is funny because I'm glad you mentioned the exposed pins because
Mhm.
it wasn't until I talked to you that I was like, wait, how are they putting these figures together? Because I see where the joints are, but in the promotional images, they Photoshop out the pins.
Yeah, it's funny, and I happen to have a good, demo model because my dog chewed up, a couple. So I had some parts and pieces, yeah, I was sending you pictures of and using the calipers, I think, to kind of try to
Yeah,
measure.
credit to these ones are made by Mega House, right? They're not
Yeah,
Bandai. Credit
right.
to Mega House, they make some delicious action figures.
Yeah.
So,
The best dog treats out there. Um, yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty fun, and I don't want them to be. My version's probably not going to be as articulated, both because I think it's more difficult, and because to me, I think that action figures can be over articulated.
That's a good point, like, I almost feel like they are. I almost feel like they are, but I think it's more of they were like, "How can we make this super articulated and not spend too much money on the engineering?" Whereas Hasbro with their and I always compare these because they are almost the
Well, yeah,
best,
same
like
scale,
domestic.
same.
Yeah, like they have a lot of great articulation, but they kind of make it where they hide it. But I bet that costs more. I mean, the figures are now 20 each, about, and they used to be like seven.
Yeah,
And I get it. The GMG figures are like 60. So it or 50. So it's a little tough.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, nobody likes to have like a mess of ball joints that's just like.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes too, like there'll be articulation where there doesn't need to be articulation, but it was more cost effective to do it that way. How they engineer putting it together and everything. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, you know what? Maybe I will have to make an Emma variant and 3D print this thing. I do want to make it like a cool little diorama, paint it up, and somehow I will, whether we use a clear plastic sphere like Rogue is suggesting here, or whether it's screens, things that
Yeah.
we use
But
to create the effect.
Though what's cool, what you're leading to is I think what I'm in. trying to figure out. It's like doing a diorama that could be very dynamic, like having posable action figures. So like after a month, you can completely change up the diorama on your shelf.
Yeah.
There's you can move a robot around, but it's nice to have where you can articulate, change it, add effect parts. That makes that stuff fun.
Yeah, and especially when you start incorporating whether it's lights, mechanical parts, anything that kind of helps create, the
Oh
illusion of
yeah,
movement and light, and
an experience.
I'm starting to get into these like electronics more. Obviously,
Yeah, that's
um,
cool. To be honest.
yesterday on my order stream, I mentioned how I butchered this drone that was given to me as a gift for Christmas a couple years ago. With the actual, it's not the propeller, but it's the guard for the propellers.
Yeah.
They've kind of broken off, and so I was like, well, let's harvest it for parts and see what we can get out of it. And it's like, you got a little lithium battery here. We've got a charging cable, a little on-off switch that we can harvest. This is actually a pretty small PCB. I mean,
Yeah.
this is some impressive soldering work. But we also have 4 independent propeller motors that I didn't realize this is you can actually reverse the direction of the motor by changing the direction of the battery.
Oh, that's interesting.
So depending on which side of the wire is touching the positive or the negative end of the battery, you can reverse the spin.
And
So
are you able to also change the speed at which it rotates?
I'm glad you mentioned that because
Yeah.
that brings up one of the very harsh realities of LED lighting.
Oh,
So
okay.
prepare yourselves for a little electronics lesson. Is there's no such thing as dimmable LEDs. LED lights are either all the way on or all the way off. There's no way to actually like dim the amount of light that's coming out of an LED. When you are dimming an LED, it is actually a trick of the light. It is basically oscillating the light on and off is so fast
Oh,
that it's imperceptible to the human eye, and so that's why
interesting.
it's slightly less bright. Now the problem is if you use cheaper LEDs, and you'll find this especially with older folks like myself. But no, older people are actually more prone to noticing the flicker of LEDs than younger people. And you'll find it with
Hmm,
cheaper LEDs compared to more expensive ones. All of
interesting.
this is a very roundabout way of saying no, you cannot control the speed of the motor necessarily, but you can control how fast on and off it flickers because it's either all the way on or all the way
Oh,
off.
interesting. That's some neat science that I didn't know because I was thinking if you could find a motor or something that could do it, it would be awesome to have it to where like maybe there's a button on that Camille diorama cockpit and then like the monitor moves up in front of him and like lights turn on.
And I think we can do that for sure.
Oh, sweet, sweet. Okay.
Hey, shout out to JamCalX. Thank you for
Oh,
the
hey.
$5 super chat.
Yeah.
Gundam figures can be good for doing stop motion projects or Photoshop diorama pieces. Raven Flow's channel has done a lot of those over the years. I'm gonna have to check out
I'll have to
Raven
look that up.
Flow. I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with them.
Yeah, because I do like that Photoshop idea. I haven't done it in a while, but it's where I would take a picture of my kits or figures in front of my monitor with like a scene in the background. And there's actually I think I still have it available for patrons. If someone's interested and it's not there, let me know. But I made a PSD that has like space, lasers,
Yeah,
explosions.
layered.
Because yeah, I'll just go in and then throw it around however I want. Yeah, it's pretty fun to do it like that.
That's pretty cool. Thanks for thank you for the super chat,
Yeah.
JamCalX, and thank you for the suggestion. I'm gonna go check that out, but I am also going to I'll probably set up I'll do a tutorial on this because it's one of the things that I did for the Bound Doc, the Zeeg New York sponsored build that I did was I actually used After Effects to do a lot of the compositing and things. So
Oh.
like the beam saber was done in After Effects,
Ah,
and
that's awesome.
I'm big into like motion graphics, so I think that would be a very cool way
Mm.
of doing things. I've done a couple of stop motions in the past, but they are terrible. um, my camera is actually it's set up to do stop motion photography. Like you can set it on like a timer and get it to work. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I always just bump into it and like the camera's
Oh,
all
yeah, I could imagine. Oh, man, all the little things, and there's some Instagram people I saw where a guy will have a Spider-Man, and I guess he's holding his camera too, and he's like going through his house with Spider-Man like jumping around, and it's all stop motion. And it's like that is amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But that's also, I think that I could probably do some cool stuff using After Effects and then like project it onto that dome, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That came in. Super
Oh,
chat. Yeah.
hey, cool. It was a little delayed, but
A
we'll
little
take
delayed,
it.
but that's pretty neat. No, but that's pretty neat. I need to think about that a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely been getting into this, like, I guess, higher echelon of Gunpla and diorama building where it's like I want to get into things that are more complicated, but I want to make them accessible and not,
Yeah.
obviously I show how often I screw up because
Yeah.
it's frequent. I think that when you look on Twitter and you look at some of these like pro builders, it's very intimidating to think, man, you guys are doing some incredible stuff, and it's like really
And
I don't
hey,
think I'll
and
ever get there.
the thing I came up with that helped me was anytime I see a build that looks incredible and I'm like, I could never do that. I give up. I zoom in and I look for like a nub that wasn't fully, or like some chipped paint or maybe a panel line that's off a little bit. Cause then
Oh
I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I can do this. And it's not that I'm trying to dismiss it. It's more of it helps ground me because
yeah.
really a lot of times when you see these pictures just without it being zoomed in, you're like, oh my God. But then when you were working on your own thing, you're like, oh my God. And but
Maybe we need to do a segment on the show where it's like, there used to be that Tumblr account that was like your Gunpla sucks, and they would, basically criticize poorly
oh,
painted
okay.
and customized Gunpla. Maybe we should do a segment that's like, similar to that, but we only target like
The
pro
highest
built, like
Yeah, like the pro builders that have the highest engagement and likes. It's like, okay, we're gonna criticize this.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It,
I'd probably learn a lot from that than actually than actually really
it
come
would
up
be
with a
an
real good build.
exercise in, like observational,
Yeah.
attention to detail and things like
Yeah.
that. But and this should make you feel better is that it's like that those are the parts of the kit that they're just like,
Yep.
like
And it's one of those things too where you have to decide, I'm not gonna keep messing with this because it's gonna get worse. Sometimes
yes.
that's what the issue is.
Yeah, I only recently revealed that during that Bound Dock build and making the video and taking all the glamour shots and stuff for it, when I went to go transform it, the arm snapped off, and then like the other arm, the shoulder armor like cracked open, and I was like,
Oh,
okay, well what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take the photos of it in the mobile armor form, and like you probably can't tell this looking at the video, but the arm was not attached. It was supposed to be tucked up underneath, but I just threw it off to the side. I was like, I need to I need to just get this video done and edited, and I will fix it later. It is
oh,
fixed now, but
good.
yeah, movie magic. That's what it's all about.
That's hilarious because there are plenty of times where I've been done taking pictures or video and realized I had a pivotal piece missing. I was too worried about the lighting and the shot and not paying attention to like I think one time it was a gun cannon, the weird white antenna that has it's a little different.
Yeah.
I that was missing in the photos I took. And and
Or
then
the Zaku.
the
The
Saikamu Zaku.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
I was gonna bring
Saikamu
that. That was
Zaku was
one
missing.
where even in the video, I'm like, there's something different about this. I don't know. It looks like it's supposed, and then it was later on. I'm like, wait a minute, the mouth was missing from the product the whole time, and they sent me a new one, which is awesome.
See,
So
shout
yeah,
out to Bandai
I
for
know that was awesome customer service.
definitely. And see, that's what makes us Bandai customers for life. Is the
Exactly. Like I'm buying these premium figures, and they make sure I get the premium experience. And same thing with the Figma because it's a different company, but
mhm.
the hands on my Souls figure came broken, and they replaced them. They said just make sure you throw away the old ones. It's like okay,
Whoa, why?
I know, I know. Well,
That's
it was
interesting.
funny because I think they're just wanting to make sure you're like telling the truth because I had a Razer, an old school Razer wired controller that stopped working, so I got with their support. And I was like, they're like, "Oh, we can send you a new one just if you can cut the cable and send a picture of that." And it's like, okay, I get it. It's not working anyway. But it's kind of funny some of the things they ask if you don't realize what they're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of a weird thing. It's like, well, I mean, it's just the X button's not working. Can
Yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting stuff.
But yeah, I had the same issue with my Totus Ritter. I remember when it fell off of the Argama shelf back here. I picked it up, put it back up, and then I was looking at it one day and I was like, hey, that antenna is crazy looking. Like, I never noticed that it like bends forward like that. And I realized that the antenna had snapped off like 75% of the way.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh man, antennas getting lost or broken hurt so bad.
Yeah.
It's like I would rather an arm snap off than an antenna break. I don't know what it is, but I
Well,
feel
because
like
you
it's
never
easier to
find it.
repair an arm.
Yeah. So yeah, the things to remember when I go to start manufacturing figures.
Yeah.
I this is good sort of practice for me because obviously, I've done a lot of 3D modeling when it comes to things for video games, but 3D modeling for, figures and 3D
Yeah.
prints, there's a lot of stuff to consider that for my miniatures, for instance, I started beefing up beam sabers and antenna because I noticed that like my first few iterations of Zaku's and things, I was getting a lot of broken antenna, broken beam sabers and
Mm.
stuff like that. And so now I kind of have that that Warhammer 40K approach where it's like just make everything exaggerated and beefier so that
Oh
it's a little
yeah.
bit more sturdy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now that I'm sort of sculpting fully articulated figures, these ones obviously are going to be sort of Gundam related, but I want to start making just kind of like, I don't know, make like a Midnight Hatter and
Yeah,
Adam
make a
Blue
line.
action figure.
Yeah, that and I see that with other, like, action figure channels that I used to watch. I tried to stop so I don't buy figures all the time, but they would come up with their own figure to sell, and I think that's a great idea, and that's
Yeah.
something I've been trying to think of, I have some things in the works. I don't know if it would, it's nothing like what you have, but I have some ideas of things to sell that could be cool.
I wouldn't sell them. I wouldn't sell yourself short on those. I think that
Oh,
got some pretty cool stuff.
okay, cool, cool.
um, with or without Kung Fu grip, Johnny Tacoma says, I don't know. We'll see if I can get the full Buzz Lightyear treatment with the arm laser and retractable wings.
That'd be awesome.
Ultronus says different hat accessories. Yeah,
Oh,
I need to go back to wearing the beanie. I think I'm gonna start doing that now that my hair is growing out
grown
again.
out. Yeah. No, the beanies are cool. Yeah, and that's the same thing with me. Like, I got my hair cut, so I haven't been wearing my hat.
hmm But yeah, I think that about wraps it up for the show. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's a lot to kind of unpack this month. A lot of things going on between the Zeeg New York giveaway, Springtide event, the Gundam Seed release, the
Yeah.
uh, March Madness Twitter. Um, what would you even call this? Like Twitter poll, Twitter
Yeah, I guess what Twitter bracket, Twitter event. Yeah,
bracket.
that's kind of a yeah, I don't know what to call that. Twitter drama?
We'll have to start putting money on it and like really get a.
Yeah, yeah, there you go with patent
That's where it's gonna get really dangerous. Like, I don't care how much you like Choo Choo.
it.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy the sort of new show format. Like I said, I want to keep pushing the sort of production value, and I think that having the chat pop up is a lot
I like it.
cooler. We can shout out people individually, and I'm gonna do much more of these visual aids and things like that. And of
Cool.
course, if you were able to catch in the supporter stream yesterday, I'm gonna start doing that more often too. So you're gonna get to see more
Oh,
of the
very cool.
sort of behind the scenes of the production of some of these goofy little toys that I'm working on.
That's awesome.
Before we go though, I see a chat from Robert. You care to do a model of the Gunblade Katana Meteor Hammer folding staff weapon for a Gundam MS model?
That sounds like the most dangerous weapon
Yeah,
ever.
that's a lot of adjectives.
Yeah.
I think that I would be dead from syllables alone. No,
That's
I'd
me.
love to see that, Robert.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Don't forget to check out the high grade seed review from
Oh,
Adam
yeah.
that was posted this morning if you haven't. And of course, we've got the Gundam Explained show tomorrow,
Yep.
Springtide event next week. A lot of things coming up, and I'm just excited. This is Mecha March is well underway,
I
and
know, I know.
we're gonna keep cranking away. Am I missing anything, Adam?
No, that yeah, we covered a lot of cool stuff. I think,
Sweet. Well,
yeah.
thank you guys again so much. Hope you have a good one. Easy.
So